Well, aren't you a regular Nancy Drew?
I learned that from the Nancy Drew Detective.
Okay, go.
You think you can follow the clues and solve the case of the missing condiment, Nancy Drew?
Because I've read every Nancy Drew mystery ever written.
Nancy, please tell me you're joking.
Wow, you suck at this Nancy Drew stuff. You should get a new hobby.
My name is Carson Drew, and this is my assistant, Nancy.
Nancy Drew.
It's curtains for you, Miss Drew.
Nancy Drew strikes again.
A regular Nancy Drew.
Well, hello, regular Drews.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to episode 89. Feels like it's been such a long time. It's been just like a week extra for us. But I don't know why it's feel like it's been an age since we've sat in front of our microphones. But we are here today to discuss another Her Interactive Nancy Drew game. This one, number 16, The White Wolf of Icicle Creek.
I'm so excited for this one.
Yeah.
It's such a fun game. I don't know that I would say that it's the best mystery, but I always enjoy it so much for some reason. Just something about it is just so fun to me. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I have a very interesting theory about this game. I mean, like, overall, yes, like, I agree. I don't love it. Like, I think the mystery is probably one of the worst ones.
Okay.
Just as far as, like, it just feels kind of boring to me. Like, nothing's really going on.
That's totally fair. Yeah.
And none of the characters seem particularly interesting to me. And I feel like the puzzles aren't super challenging. And
there's not many.
It's just not a lot. And it's not a lot to hold my attention. You know what I mean? But I do think there is something genius about this game.
Yeah.
In that I feel like it is probably one of the best at capturing an atmosphere.
Yes.
And I think the reason why it's so good at this is because it does something that none of the other games do. And that is that it really emphasizes and has a lot of cutscenes.
Yes, it does.
And just little small cutscenes. So, like, nothing major, but it's like they have so many cutscenes just to show, like, Nancy moving and her movement. And I think that is so smart. There's something about it that it makes the game feel kind of slow. And like almost in a boring way, but I think that's part of the genius of it, because I think there's something about that slowness that really feels accurate to, like, being out in the snow and the cold. You know, like, you're moving slower, like, physically, because it is colder. It's harder to move your body. Like, there's less to do.
True.
Like, there's not as many activities because it's cold, so you have to stay inside for a good amount of the time. Like, you know, there's not really, like, internet. It feels very much like you're off, like, you're on vacation at Christmas break, you're in the snow, you don't have internet, and it's like, what do you do? You know what I mean? It feels exactly like that. And I think honestly that's kind of really smart of them to do, because it makes the what is the boring mystery, in my opinion, just a little bit more interesting and compelling. You know what I mean?
That's true. And it, like, ups the danger factor as well when you are out there alone and you only have so much time to, like, make a decision and what you got to do and where you got to go before you either, you know, are attacked by the wolf or by one of the explosions, or you just die of hypothermia. Like,
Yeah. So I think, like, the ambiance of this game is probably one of, like, the best. I don't think it's, like, the best ambiance, because obviously there are games that I like the ambiance more, but I think that the work they put into the ambiance of this one is some of the best work that they've done. In all of the games.
I'd agree. I think the vibes are, like, the best part of this game. They really outdid themselves with that. Definitely.
It just feels so accurate. It's so visceral. I feel like I am walking in, like, the Canadian mountains in the snow.
Yeah.
Like, not that I want to be, but it feels true, you know?
I would never want to be doing that in person, like actually trekking through all this snow and being that cold in real life. No, thank you. But do I want to do it in this game over and over again? Absolutely. It's so much fun. I love it.
I will say too, this game is like really sad. Does this game make you super sad, or is it just me? Okay.
There are some parts that are just heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the whole thing about the wolf and even the ending is sad. And like, there's no real upper parts to this game. And I think also like the ambiance of it really contributes to that too. It's like, it's cold, it's sad. Everybody is like weird and lonely, and I don't have anybody to talk to, and the world's going to hell, and like all of this stuff. That's how it feels playing the game, which again, not enjoyable, not my favorite, but really interesting and really kind of successful if that's what they were going for, and it seems like it was. So
yeah. This is probably one of my top 5 games. Wow. And again, not because I think that it's like an amazing mystery or the best storyline necessarily, but because I, again, love the vibe so much and I love the cooking puzzles so much that there are just so many fun parts of this game that I've replayed it so many times that it's made its way into my top 5.
Gotcha.
Like I've definitely played this more than a dozen times in the past like 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Definitely. Just from looking at my save files, I was like, oh wow, I've played this way more than I've realized recently.
Yeah. I think that we probably have a very different opinion about this game.
And that's totally fine. I will admit it's not the best. I don't really like any of the characters. Yeah. There are a lot of really tedious parts of the game. You're on the phone a lot. And it gets real old real quick. There's a lot of things that you're only doing just to kill time.
Yes.
But then there are other things that are just so much fun that I love it so much that it almost makes up for those kind of worst parts of it. So
yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that of like, yes, you're on the phone a lot. It feels really boring and none of the puzzles are really interesting. I do really love the chores though. I do love the chores. I love the cooking. I love the cleaning up the guest rooms, even though it takes 20 seconds. It's just, I don't know why. I don't know why I love the chores so much. But I even, at a certain point when you're kind of like relieved of your cooking duty later in the game, I still choose to.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I'm like, no, let me back in that kitchen. I will be finishing breakfast.
It's like,
thank you.
6:01, time to go cook dinner. Like on the dot, I am there. I am waiting to get into that dining room or that kitchen. It's so funny. And it's not challenging. It's not complicated. There's nothing about it that makes my brain have to work. And maybe that's why I like it so much. Because it's just like a mindless, like
it's very repetitive. Yes. Just look at the pretty salad, make your French toast. Yeah. Honestly, if the cooking puzzle wasn't in there, I would probably not like this game very much at all. I think that it really makes that much of a difference.
Well, and I don't know why it's cooking in particular, but like Warnings at Waverly Academy, my favorite thing to do is the snack shack.
Snack shop boss.
Snack shop. Yeah. So like, what is it?
I don't know.
What is it about these cooking games, man? I don't know. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. Fox and Geese, the worst.
I like Fox and Geese, actually.
It's grown on me. When I first started playing this game, I hated it. Now that I've played it a million times, I know exactly what to do, and you just get it done.
It's annoying, but it's not really actually that challenging. The only really frustrating part about it is when you mess up.
Yeah.
You're like, gosh, dang it, I should have seen that, but I didn't. And you do it like 5 times. That's what's so frustrating about it. But once you get the hang of it, it's like, okay. I got it.
It's only tedious because it's required so many times. If you only had to play it once, that would be a different story. I'd probably not even mind it at all. But
exactly.
Oh, wow.
But the fact that you had to do it 4 times in a row, it's like,
come on,
please stop.
And that's the only thing that's stopping you from like just finishing the game.
Yeah,
and it's really annoying. It's like, just let me get to the end game. Skip past this, and let's go.
Yeah. I will say, the one good thing about playing Fox and Geese, though, is that even though you have to sit across the table from Bill, he is completely silent the whole time.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I don't like that man.
All these people are so annoying.
I know. The only person I like is Lou, and I don't think that you're supposed to.
I don't really like him either. Guadalupe's all right.
Yeah. Ollie's horrible. Freddy's annoying. Yanni is, of course, terrible.
I feel bad for Freddie, though.
I do too, but she's a child, so it's just like automatically annoying, you know?
Yeah. We need to talk about the depiction of children in this series, especially following up from Blackmore Manor. Yeah, because we don't have very many kids in this series. And when we do, they're not like treated very well or regarded very well by the other characters. So I think it's very interesting.
Well, can we talk about too how legitimately the only interactions you have with this child is pelting her in the face with snowballs? Like, what is that?
Right? Oh, it's such a weird game mechanic. Why would they add that?
And just like the image of her like getting hit in the face of like, just like the noises that she makes and the way the character's head like flies back. And it's like, ooh, whose idea was this?
Right?
And I have to give credit to Lottie Manola in this because, oh my gosh, because she voices Freddie as well, and her voice is so perfectly annoying. I don't know how she managed to do it. She's very talented. But like, yeah, I hate that little girl. And I do find some kind of sick, perverse pleasure in just whamming her in the face with snowballs. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway.
Alrighty. 3 words.
So can we say like melancholy? Is this game melancholic? Does it feel melancholic to you?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Mournful.
Mournful. That's a good one. Let's do mournful. And then chores has to be one of them.
Yes, definitely.
Because that's just like the highlight of the game.
Yeah.
Mournful chores. That sounds awful.
Yes. Phone calls. I feel like you're on the phone a lot.
Yeah.
But I also want to say something about the environment too, since it's like such an important factor of the game. Like, I don't want to just say snow, but it is like our snowiest game for sure.
Absolutely.
What else could we say?
I said
hypothermia.
Hypothermia. That's a good one. Cold. We just do cold.
Yeah.
But also like this might be kind of petty, but loose ends. I thought, because I just feel like there are so many freaking loose ends in this game that it just doesn't make any sense. Like when you finish it. But again, I wrote that after I had just finished the game, and I was like, "What the? What is this?"
That might have been a programming issue too. I don't know. Maybe there's just something that they had to rush some of the programming with this game. I know that 2 of the characters you don't even have to talk to at all. Like you never even have to meet them to finish the game. But yeah, maybe it's just something like that it feels like maybe just some things didn't quite get polished in the end, that they maybe had to rush some of the...
Yeah, I agree. We need to talk about that later too, because it does feel like there's something missing from this game. Several things missing. Maybe. But we can talk about that. But.
Yeah. Is it that, or is it just a really short mystery? I don't know. I feel like there's not really even like much investigating that Nancy does. Yeah, I don't know.
There's just not a lot to the plot. And coming from like Curse of Blackmore Manor to this is really jarring. It's like a really big drastic difference between the two, because of course there is so much in Curse of Blackmore Manor, and in this game there's like nothing. I'm like, there's nothing interesting. So but we can talk about that later. Okay, but so our 3 words were mournful, chores, and then like cold.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Mournful, cold, chores.
Here we go,
guys.
Oh, this is the first game to have what is, I think, our 3rd generation of the in-game like interface, the user interface. So we got a whole different like menu and everything this time, which is kind of fun.
Okay, I have to say though, I have super beef with this.
Because you can't pause.
You can't pause this game. You can't pause this game.
And this game really, really depends on timed things.
Yes.
Not that there's a lot of timed tasks, but you have to do a lot of things at certain times.
Right.
And if you don't, like you can get a second chance. You have to start over.
That's the thing. In this game, there's also no second chances. It doesn't ever, because there's no menu ever, right? It's just you start the game and you go into Nancy's desk, right? Her room, her desk. in that era, and that's her center of operations or whatever. But so there's no like menu, there's no start, blah blah blah. It just always loads you into that. And so whenever you do like quote unquote die or fail in the game, it just starts you over. It doesn't.
Oh, that's right.
There's no like second chance. Would you like to try again? You can't even pause by not in that kind of menu by just not clicking to move forward. It just automatically restarts you. So like when at the very end, the freaking, we'll get to this, but the snowmobile chase, I swear.
Oh. Oh, the ice flows too.
The ice flows.
Terrible.
Just constantly restarting you. And at one point, I was just like, I guess I'm just going to let Nancy die and keep doing this while I go to the bathroom or so I can go get some water or something, because I'm so annoyed at this point. Like, I can't pause. In order to pause the game, you have to fully exit the whole game and then fully restart it to get back in. I'm so peeved about that.
Yeah.
Especially because for me, like, I have to take notes while I'm doing this, right? So, like, I'm constantly having to, like, pause to, like, summarize things, but, like, that takes a good significant amount of time, so I can't pause the game. I just have to, like, so it's been, like, hours in game, and I'm, like, writing paragraphs over here, like, on my iPad.
Oh, gosh.
It's going. And I'm like, I guess I'll talk to that person tomorrow. Like,
right.
Yeah. It's wild. Anyway.
I don't know of any other games that do that quite so bad. Maybe that is just the clunkiness of switching to the new menu and everything. But
I think so. I think, because they fixed that problem later where, like, whenever you, like, open, like, the save or the load menu, it will pause the time. But it doesn't do that in this one. So, yeah, definitely big critique I have of this game. But also, Ned is a phone contact in this game, but literally contributes nothing to the plot or doesn't help at all. You just talk to him about what's going on. He doesn't say anything interesting. So it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the actual point?
I think I called him once this time.
Yeah,
so
me too. Same.
It's nothing.
Same. Just to check.
We do have another phone character that we have to get our hints from instead of Ned this time. And that infuriates me because it's Tino Balducci, who y'all remember from Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, who's the worst. I hate that man so much.
Seriously. Just hearing his voice. The voice actor does an excellent job, I have to say, because I hate that man's voice so much. And so, you know, props to that guy. For a very memorable voice. But yeah, no, can't stand Tino. Can't stand him. And doing his weird time waster of a survey made me want to pull my hair out, because that's what the whole game kind of felt like. I'm just wasting time in order to get to an ending that didn't feel compelling or earned. So yeah. But anyway.
Yes.
Should we jump in?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so when you start out this game, right, you're at Nancy's center of operations, her desk, and of course you have your case file, and this kind of sets us up for what we're going to discover in the game. And the case file explains to us that Nancy has been hired by Chantal Moique, who apparently is a friend of Bet and Ed Raleigh from Shadow Ranch. Apparently they recommended Nancy to her. And she's invited Nancy to come to the Icicle Creek Lodge, which is the small hotel in the Canadian Rockies, and try to figure out why so many accidents have been happening there lately. So this is another sabotage case. Chantal is the owner of this lodge, and she's also currently in Edmonton. She's not at the lodge. She's like conferring with her lawyers about these accidents, so we only ever speak to her by phone. We don't ever meet her in person. And Nancy mentions in the case file that it's snowy and cold there. Of course, it's wintertime in Canada, and that Chantal mentioned something about a wolf, but the connection was apparently bad when she was talking to her, and so she could only hear bits and pieces, like the words howling, prowling, and dangerous. Ooh. So automatically, once we've read that case file and we click on the plane ticket, we're immediately transported to Canada. We see a cutscene of Nancy. Well, we don't see Nancy, but we see a cutscene of a truck driving through the Canadian wilderness, and Nancy is inside. She is talking to Ollie, who is driving, and Ollie is Chantal's handyman and manager of this inn. He makes this comment about how he thinks Nancy is really young to be a detective, and he's been left in charge while Ollie is away in while Chantal is away in Edmonton, and so he's kind of like concerned about us being there. He doesn't want us to like be underfoot causing problems or whatever. And so while Nancy is assuring him that she has plenty of experience and there's nothing to worry about, we hear this long, faint howl, and then we see an explosion in the distance. And then we cut to the lodge where Nancy and Ollie are on speakerphone with Chantal, and we learn that the bunkhouse at the lodge has exploded. That's the explosion that we saw. Luckily, it was empty at the time, but Elsa and Becky, the lodge's former maid and cook, used to live there before they just recently quit. So really lucky that nobody was in there at the time. The sheriff is currently investigating the explosion, and he'll know more after he's finished running tests on the debris, but apparently the blast was very, very powerful. And of course, this has obviously made Chantal even more desperate to resolve this situation, and Ollie even suggests to Chantal that she call her dad. Apparently her dad is some big resort mogul, but Chantal doesn't want to do that because she doesn't want him to think that she's incompetent. I really want to talk about this later because I find this so interesting.
Well, she is incompetent, so be a little hard to hide, but
yeah. But also she's like, oh, but Nancy, now you're here, so you're going to figure it out, right? Right. Nancy suggests that she could go undercover as the new maid so that she could get access to everyone's room and then be able to discreetly investigate. And Chantal loves this idea. She loves it so much, she even, quote unquote, hires us to be her new cook as well as her new maid. She obviously just doesn't want to have to pay to hire someone else, which is like, my goodness. And she says that this will give Nancy even more opportunity to talk to the guests. And yeah, she also won't have to pay anyone else. So our job is to investigate and make sure that all of the 4 current guests are as comfortable as possible, because I guess now we're also a hospitality worker, not just a detective. And Chantal mentions that we should specifically take care of this Olympic caliber cross-country skier from the country of Fredonia, made-up country.
Russia.
Yeah, but read some Eastern European country. Yes. Or Russia. And because he's the most high-profile guest right now. Meanwhile, Ollie says he wants to try to get rid of this wolf because apparently it howls before every accident and is freaking out the guests. Sorry, dude, not a good enough reason to shoot a wolf, but Chantal just like agrees with him and says that he should do whatever he thinks he needs to, basically. Also, Chantal tells us, yes, that she's hired Tino Balducci as a consultant and tells us that, like, we have to work with him because she's paying him to consult on this case, which is like, ugh.
But not us. We're not getting paid for any of the, like, 4 jobs we're doing. But he is.
That's my question. Is Nancy getting paid for this? Because it kind
She is not.
It's implied kind of that she is, but we never actually come right out and say it. So I don't know. It's
well,
very
Tino
weird.
says it.
Oh, Tino.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the one getting paid for this, not you, so you better just take my advice kind of thing.
Right. Oh, my God. So
Loser.
wild. Anyway, then we're transported to Nancy's room, and it's this, I mean, the whole lodge is like this. It's cute, rustic, but in the room specifically, there's like a quilt covered bed. There's just like a little table of chairs and a large armoire, and all the guest rooms kind of look like this. There's also like taxidermied animals everywhere, which is kind of off-putting if you're a vegetarian like me.
Yeah. Hunting lodge. Very hunting lodge vibes.
Very
big
hunting
time.
lodge, logwood floors and walls and all of that stuff. But very cozy. And so in our room, we can pick up the master key that Ollie has left for us, as well as a guide to each of the rooms and who all is staying in each one. And this is where we can also learn all of the other guests' names. And they are Bill Kessler, Lou Talbot, Guadalupe Comillo, and Yanni Volkstaya. That's the Olympic skier. And there's also this packet in our room with all of these instructions for our maid and cook duties, which is very important that we do that every day at the correct times. Otherwise, you get in trouble and get kicked out. Also,
we're working for free.
Yes. Also, there is a note in this packet about the sauna door getting stuck periodically, and that the guest staff should frequently check to make sure that there are no guests stuck inside. What? I'm sorry. Excuse me? Like, this is wild. I'm sorry. What we're at this lodge, and one of our duties is to check the sauna to make sure nobody's trapped inside of it. This is such a hazard. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen, and I can't believe that it took this long for all of these other accidents to happen and for Chantal to get sued, because wow.
This is very Nancy Drew Files.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when you exit Nancy's bedroom, there is a hallway that contains all the other guest rooms and also the one bathroom for the entirety of the guests. I guess it's, one bathroom. I was like, I guess there could be an ensuite on someone else's room, but there's not, because we go into everybody else's room. That's insane.
Yep, a communal bathroom. One communal bathroom in this entire place.
This hotel,
where does Ollie sleep?
Better be like $100 a night. You know what I mean? Like, it better not be very expensive to stay here. Where does Ollie sleep?
Maybe he has like a house nearby and he just leaves at night.
Maybe so. But yeah, we know that Elsa and Becky used to live in the bunkhouse. So maybe there's some other outbuilding, or maybe he just has his own house nearby.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway.
Whatever. You want to take it?
Okay, so as you said, there's all the guest rooms upstairs, and then if we go downstairs, there is the like front desk and like reception area, and then the exit to get out of the building. And then if you go right downstairs, there is a living area with like a little table where some guests are playing board games and a fireplace, and then there is the dining room and kitchen, and then there's also a door where you can get down to the basement where Ollie has like a little workshop kind of set up down there. Behind the desk, if we go behind the front desk, we can find some crumpled pieces of paper. One of them is a letter of resignation from Elsa, the previous maid. She says that she's no longer feeling safe with all the accidents going on. She's actually submitted an insurance claim to Chantal's insurance company because the wolf has damaged her tires on her car. And there's also a phone number there, so we can contact her if we want to. But then the other letters are some what look like insane love letters from someone named L to Elsa. And they're like this like really sappy love letters from an ex-boyfriend who clearly got like a little bit gross and
possessive,
creepy and possessive. Yes, at the end there. And threatens to like dump her troll dolls down the disposal because he doesn't know any other way to like quote unquote make her love him or control him, really, or control her is really what he's trying to do here. So very interesting. But then on the computer, if we go on the computer, there's a bunch of things here that we can look at. There is some information about like local wildlife and stuff that you can learn about the area of Canada that we're in. But there's also the guest register, of course. So if we go back to like the previous page on the guest register, everything from last year was completely deleted.
Kori, do we ever get an explanation for this?
Nope.
Okay. Just checking. I just want to make sure I didn't miss it.
I'm trying to think. Does it come up later? Because we do ask Chantal about it, and she's like, oh, Freddie. She must have deleted it. She loves playing on computers and deleting my stuff.
Yeah, she blames the child, but then we don't actually ever learn what it is. We should talk about this later because it doesn't make any sense.
If it is sabotage, like, how does that hurt anybody? You know? It's like, oh, I mean, it might be inconvenient to not have your previous customers' records, but... Oh, you know what? I think I have a theory. It could just be a red herring to like cast some suspicion on a certain person.
I'm sure that that's the case. Yeah, but if I it could have just been like an accident or like a fluke or whatever or something. But it doesn't make any sense like with what ends up being the solution to the mystery. Like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all these characters are going to tell us that it's basically their first time visiting here, but then later we're going to find out that that's not the case. So maybe like somebody just deleted it so that we didn't find out that, oh, they've been coming and going or something like that. That's a stretch, but that's like the only way that I can make it fit as like a red herring or something to just make us suspicious to somebody else. But anyway.
Yeah.
So that's all deleted. And then if we go in more towards the living room area, there's this like gallery wall with all these old photographs and some just like interesting historical stuff that we can learn more about Icicle Creek's history. So supposedly this place was originally used for research by the Navy in World War II.
Something else that never comes up again either. What kind of research? I want to know so much more.
Right.
What the heck?
Maybe that's something like left over from the book that this was inspired by, and it just like didn't get connected very well.
I do think that there are lots of plot points that like they meant to put in this game, but like you were saying before, that for whatever reason, development just had to get rushed, and so they just didn't have time. And I wonder if this is one of them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say as well, this game is supposed to be based off of 2 of the mystery stories. Somehow we ended up with 2 different books about wolf-themed mysteries. I think it's called Mystery of the Mother Wolf and then Werewolf in a Winter Wonderland are the 2 different. Or maybe it's just Wolf in a Winter Wonderland or something like that.
I don't know why
2
I
different
thought...
wolf
Was
ones.
there not a book that is The White Wolf of Icicle Creek? I thought...
I don't think so.
Let me just double check. I could have sworn like one of the more recent like early aughts books, but I guess not.
No, those 2 were actually pretty late in the mystery stories series, so they would have been early aughts, but I don't think there's one that's actually called White Wolf of Icicle
Maybe
Creek.
I'm just remembering the cover of the book and just assuming.
Oh, probably,
that's what that book was.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So it was used by the Navy for some reason, but the place was actually built in 1894 by a man named Trapper Dan. He apparently was a hide salesman, right? Like he sold furs and stuff.
Yes.
But he apparently entertained a lot of celebrities at his lodge and I don't know, just had a lot of fun here. Apparently Teddy Roosevelt, Lizzie Applegate, who's a reference to another character from another game, Frederick Banting, Ernest Hemingway, Marie Curie all came here at some point. But then in 1921, in the winter, Trapper Dan just vanished without a trace. And so the lodge was just like converted into a hunting lodge. And then it was purchased by this guy named Abe Wentworth in 1934 and then was purchased by Chantal, or I guess Chantal's father bought it in like 06. And then Chantal has been running it since then.
Great.
Which I think this game was like 08. So that's supposed to be pretty recent in this timeline. But Trapper Dan was super quirky and had a pet pig named Mary, and also it's also rumored that he smuggled animal pelts as well.
Yeah.
According to Lizzie Applegate, Trapper Dan built a bunch of hidden chambers and passageways around his property to facilitate this smuggling that he was doing. There's also some missing items from the display. There's a couple like photos on the wall that just have empty frames, and then there is a bone, like there's a plaque that has a shape of where a bone should be, but the bone is not there. And according to the plaque, this bone was found by Trapper Dan, and he believed that it belonged to a race of giants known as Rexes. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
The lounge area is so wonderfully cozy. Again, there's the fireplace, big windows with lots of snow pelting it, lots of fluffy blankets everywhere. It's just really nice and cozy. On the coffee table in front of the fireplace, though, there's the newspaper article that talks about recent incidents at the lodge. So there was some food poisoning that happened recently. Apparently 4 people were forced to check out of the lodge after they got food poisoning from some like potato salad or something that they'd been eating. Apparently they all had to go to the hospital for salmonella poisoning. And apparently there was just no explanation for this because Chantal swears that they'd like checked all their food and all of it was like up to safety regulations and all that kind of stuff. One guest said that the lodge is jinxed and Chantal should just give up on trying to run this. And Also mentions that there's this lone wolf that's been spotted several times in the area. I think also something about the stairs got iced down and somebody like fell or something, or we
Well,
might learn that later.
the article just talks about the food poisoning.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But basically a lot has been going on recently. But at this point, we can go start meeting some of the other guests in the lobby. Guadalupe Comillo is standing by the window in the lobby. She goes by Lupe. She is pretty uppity and claims to be here bird watching. She's also very concerned with like getting her room cleaned first because she's like, oh, all the other people here are like single bachelors and they're going to be filthy. So you might as well just do mine first, And by the way, I don't want to be like charged for the alarm clock in my room because it was missing when I got here. So make a note of that because I'm not going to pay for the missing alarm clock. Also, she says that she's bird watching, but if we go to the computer in the lobby and look at all the information there about the wildlife in the area, we can ask Lupe what bird she's been looking at or what she's like been watching for, and she'll tell us names of birds that are not found in Canada in the winter. So clearly she's lying about the reason that she's still just like standing at this window all day. Also in the lobby are Bill Kessler and Lou Talbot, who are playing a game of Fox and Geese at the board game table in the room. We're going to get to play this game later, as we mentioned, so we'll talk about it later. But Lou is a graduate student studying art, and he is here just on vacation. And then Bill is just also here. He loves ice fishing, and so this is just his vacation. But the wolf sightings have dampened his enthusiasm for going out and doing his ice fishing and all the stuff that he likes to do outside. He says that he hasn't seen it yet, but he does hear it howling every night, and he thinks that this wolf should just be gotten rid of. Lou says that people should just leave it alone, and it's not hurting anyone, so why should we bother it? But Bill thinks it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
Step off this wolf's back.
Do all of these people really believe that the wolf is like poisoning their potato salad? And
seriously,
like, come
just
on.
because there's a wolf outside and it's howling, like, gotta kill it? Like, what?
Yeah.
I will agree that maybe it's a little bit concerning that it's getting close to humans. I think maybe that's what the issue is, but nobody really talks about that as being the reason why something needs to be done. They're just like, oh, it's freaky, get it out of here. Although I guess Bill does say that it's just like a matter of time until something bad happens because it's gonna like bite someone. But again, doesn't mean you gotta kill it, you guys. Anyway.
Right. Mm. Bill, though, he gives us a chore right away. He tells us that the skating pond that he and Lou have been skating on is got snow all over it, so he needs us to shovel it so that they can get it back out and do some more skating. But now we're going to go clean the guest rooms a little bit, and this will give us the opportunity to snoop around a little bit more. Most of the stuff that we find right now isn't super, super important, but it does give us some idea of what each guest is up to. Most important things that we find is we find a magazine in Yanni's room. Apparently, so Yanni is the cross-country skier. Apparently, there are rumors that a world championship cross-country skiing competition is going to be taking place around Icicle Creek in the coming years, but it's not like official yet. And then in Lupe's room, we see another magazine. This one is actually about Yanni. So clearly she's been looking into the other guests here at the lodge. There are several things that she's underlined in the article, including that he hates to lose. He's a huge, like, competitive, like, very, very focused on winning. He is apparently so obsessed with winning that he will like become obsessed with his opponents in the competitions that he's in. He will like figure out their schedule, where they live, what they eat, and he will like do things to like mess with them before he's supposed to like go up against them or whatever.
Well, theoretically, that's the rumor.
Theoretically,
it's unconfirmed, right?
So there's some examples of like one time Yanni was in this one town for a competition and he bought up all of the hotel rooms in town. Even though he's just going to stay in one of them, but it was just so that his opponent had to like stay in the next town over and wouldn't get as good a sleep or whatever, I guess.
Had to like get up earlier to get there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then like, just things going missing from different race courses and just, weird things happening around the time of his competitions. And Yanni, of course, chalks all of this up to jealousy. If they were better, they would do better in the competitions, right? It's not his fault that he's so much better than everybody else. But if we go down into the basement at this time, this is where the sauna is located, but then there's also the furnace, and then Ollie has his little workshop down here. And then Yanni has also set up a little area to work on his skis and like polish them and stuff, so we can talk to him down here as well. If we go talk to Ollie, he'll say that he is currently working on a trap so that he can trap the wolf and kill it.
This is awful.
So sad. And he says that he's doing this because the wolf is bad luck and something unnatural is protecting it. And he tells us this story that he went looking for it yesterday and he saw it clear as day sitting right across the creek right in front of him. So he raised his rifle and he took what was the easiest shot he's ever taken in his life. It was close range. It was very clear, no wind, so easy. And he missed.
Mm-hmm.
So he fires again and he missed again. And he missed, and he missed, and he missed. And just something was keeping that wolf safe, and he just doesn't like it. He doesn't understand it. And then the wolf just sits here and watches him miss a bunch of time, and then just calmly gets up and walks away. And so to him, this means that the wolf is like, I don't know, supernatural, I guess, in some way. And he's never seen an animal like that before, so he thinks that this is just so unnatural, it has to go.
Okay.
This man.
Can we pause for a second? Because this is so wild to me. I don't know if I just think about this differently than other people, but like, let's say I really believed that wolf was a supernatural creature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be then more determined to kill it?
Right?
No. I'm going to
now.
let's leave the clearly godlike wolf alone. Do you want to be cursed? Is that what you want to happen? Because it seems like when you kill the clearly supernatural wolf, that you're going to get some kind of weird wolf curse, and then maybe you're cursed to be the wolf or something. So, let's leave it alone. You know what I mean?
It's immortal, so let's try harder to kill it. Oh my gosh. What?
Also, it clearly wasn't aggressive. It wasn't like rabid or anything. It wasn't coming up to you. It just walked away. So, what's the issue, dude? What's the problem here?
The potato salad is poisoned. But so we talked to him a little bit more, and he asks us if we have met his daughter Freddie yet. He tells us that she likes to sit outside in this snow fort that she made, and she just waits for somebody to walk by so that she can challenge them to a snowball fight.
Sad.
He clearly loves her very, very much, speaks very highly of his daughter. So we ask about Freddie's mom, and he says that she is actually down south right now. Doesn't specify where that is, but she has this nerve condition that makes her very, very sensitive to cold, so she does not live here during the winter. He would really like to be able to send Freddie to go with her, but they can't afford to do so. Apparently, he has been working for Chantal about 1.5 years now, and she's promised him a raise, but it's just not come yet. So he kind of needs that raise in order to be able to do what he wants to do and send Freddie south to be with her mom.
Do we believe this?
I'm wondering that as well. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, it seems plausible that someone could have a nerve condition that makes them really sensitive to cold. But it does kind of seem interesting that if that's the case, you would choose to be away from your spouse for what in Canada might be 6 months out of the year.
Or more.
Or more, a long time. We're in the Canadian Rockies. It doesn't really get warm there. So why does the whole family not move?
Right.
I don't know. That just seems like what I would want to do. I mean, I get people have different families of all kinds. I'm not trying to say that it has to be one way or the other. I'm just wondering if there is maybe more to that story than they say.
And we never learn more about it. It's not like we get to talk to Freddie about her mom or anything, nothing like that.
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freddie's not like somebody you can go have a conversation with. She's really just there for the snowballs. Yeah. He also mentions that he actually used to run a lodge himself, but it didn't work out for some reason. And it's still his dream to run his own lodge someday if he can, get the money together to do that.
Yeah.
Take it from here?
Sure. So also in the basement is, like you said, where Yanni is usually posted up. He's like over in the corner maintaining his equipment. And can we talk about how his character is posed when he's doing this? Because, oh my God, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. His booty's sticking out
Just
so
popped out.
much. He
Yes.
has such a booty in this shot. I'm definitely going to be posting that one on Instagram because it is so funny to me. I just want to know, like, what artist was like, yeah, that looks fine. That wasn't
Make
like
it a little rounder.
yeah. That wasn't thinking, oh, maybe that's a little bit too much of an intense like butt shot for a video game made for children. Nah, looks great.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's over there and we can talk to him. We explain that we're the new maid and cook, and he introduces himself and he talks about his strict training routine. And he tells us, because we're the maid, that under no circumstances shall we let anyone into his room at any time because his competitors are constantly trying to spy on him, so he has to be like super vigilant. And we can ask him if he's ever seen the wolf while he's out training, and he says that he hasn't. And then he tells us about how apparently in Fredonia, the legend is that all the wolves are evil and that the gaze of a wolf will make you go blind. Cool.
Yeah.
We should talk about the portrayal of Yanni
Yes.
later, because I find that very interesting too. If you want to explore outside the lodge, you can meet Freddie at her snow fort, but like you said, you can't really talk to her. She only lets you call her Snow Princess. She will go by no other name. We have to have a snowball fight with her and hit her 10 times in the head, in the face, before she'll let us pass her fort. But once you do get past her fort, you can explore over where the exploded bunkhouse is. You can't really go into the area, but you can see where it is. And you see like this partially melted clock face in the snow outside of that. And so we wonder if maybe that was part of the detonator that exploded, that set off the bomb, right?
Huh. Wasn't there a missing clock earlier?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Didn't a guest have a missing clock from their room? Who was that? Also past Freddie is the path to Icicle Lake, and there's an ice fishing shack out there where you can warm up if you choose to, because you do have to manage your temperature in this game. I think we mentioned this a little bit before. There's like a little meter at the top of the screen whenever you're outside, and if it's really cold, it'll go down really quickly. So you just need to watch that and be careful, or you will freeze to death. And you can also go ice fishing in that ice fishing shack if you want to. Directly outside the lodge is a path to the skating pond, and we can go ahead and clear that since Bill has asked us to. It's essentially like a Minesweeper game where you have to shovel the snow and avoid the thin ice. I actually really enjoy this one. I do find this one of the most fun puzzles for me, but that's also just because I like Minesweeper, and that's exactly what it is. So
it's nice. It's straightforward, but it's fun. Yeah.
And after you've done that, Nancy will see wolf tracks on the other side of the pond and automatically start following them. And she'll end up with this thing that we realize is Trapper Dan's needle. If you've looked at the lodge, the display in the lobby, that kind of explains that that's what this is. And it's this tall, like, it looks like the Washington Monument, kind of, except smaller.
It does,
just like this stone structure out in the woods somewhere. And sticking out of the wall of this needle is a piece of fabric. It's like stuck in some kind of like closed doorway. So it seems like the structure must open up somehow. There must be a way to get inside of it. So of course, that's what we will devote our entire time to doing. We can continue following the wolf tracks, and we eventually get to an area called Chicken Ridge. And once you do, you hear a nearby explosion, like very close. And then a wolf howls, like, literally, it sounds like the wolf is like right next to you.
Mm-hmm.
So close. And then we look to our left or our right, and an avalanche is barreling down on us. And Nancy ends up getting buried in the snow. And we have to try to dig ourselves out of it. But we can't do it, can't make it. There's too much snow. And honestly, this is terrifying. Mm-hmm. And Nancy is like, oh, I can't do, you hear her physically try and fail. Right. Which is this is maybe this is not very far into the game at all, depending on how much, you've already this is one of the first things in the game. Mm-hmm. And Nancy is already I can't do it. I'm going to die.
It's the vibes. It's all those dangerous, desolate, isolated, cold, time's running out. Oh,
It's horrifying. This
oh, it's so
horrified
good.
me.
Yeah.
But then we hear like someone like walking around on the snow up above us. And we shout for help and it seems to work and they hear us and we hear someone start like trying to like dig through the snow to get to us. But then we look up and come face to face with the white wolf. The wolf is digging Nancy out of the snow. Which I guess thanks. It does kind of growl a little bit, but then it just leaves. So cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Good, great. Friendly
Thanks.
wolf.
See you later.
Maybe.
Yep.
Bye. Okay. And then we just like walk back to the lodge and basically pretend like nothing has happened. Like this is this is so wild to me. But when walking back, you do see where this like explosion occurred, and it looks like someone has purposely set off explosives and uncovered this really cool looking fossil, actually, and then these weird looking black rocks, which if you click on Nancy will remark that they look weird. And then there are also ski tracks, and that leads us back to the lodge. But then, like, once you get back to the lodge, like, I mean, yeah, you can kind of tell people, like, you can tell Ollie about the avalanche and stuff, but like, there's no concern or like nobody's like, oh gosh, are you okay? There's none of that. Even it's part of our job responsibilities to report avalanches, so we do have to call the avalanche patrol people, and they're not even concerned. Like,
is it over?
Yeah, they're like, oh, thanks for the heads up.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, they ask. I think they ask, is anyone out there or whatever? And Nancy's like, well, not anymore. But like, oh my god. Also, how does Nancy know that nobody's out there? There totally could be somebody else who got buried in this avalanche. Avalanche patrol needs to go out and check. Anyway.
You're not the only idiot out there hiking alone, Nancy. Come on now.
Seriously. But anyway, when talking to Avalanche Patrol, they thank us for the report. And then when they learn that we are at the lodge, they ask us to tell Ollie, who I guess is also a volunteer for this ski patrol or Avalanche Patrol, that the explosives training in Calgary has been postponed until next month. And apparently they explain that sometimes they use explosives in avalanche response. And so we can ask them if they've been setting off explosives around here lately, and they say they haven't. Interesting. Since we've cleared the skating pond, we can talk more with Lou and Bill thanks us for shoveling the snow. And Lou will tell us a little bit more about himself. He explains that he goes to University of California at Brea, that he's working on his MFA. And he says that his favorite medium is dirt. So basically, he just does art with dirt, which is cool. And we can ask about the accidents as they have experienced at the lodge. And we learn that Lou's window got broken somehow, but it's really weird because nothing was missing from his room, and there was like no rock on the floor, like no bullet or anything. And so it's like, how did the window get broken? And Bill says it was the wolf, but his room's on the second floor, so it doesn't seem likely that the wolf was able to break the window on the second floor. But like, someone would have had to like throw something up there to break the window, but there was nothing in the room. So it's just really weird. Like, how did that happen? We also learned that Lou likes to snowshoe, which is just kind of like a random fact. It will be a little relevant later, but not really. And we can ask if he's heard any explosions while he's out snowshoeing. And he says, yes, he has. And he says, I don't know who's doing it, but it's so bad. It's so dangerous because of the avalanche risk. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Thank you. We can also talk more with Lupe. And she tells us about the alarm clock missing from her room. And we can also ask her if she's ever seen the wolf. And she says she hasn't. But then she asks if we have. And we can kind of choose whether we say yes and tell her about our experience or not. But whatever we tell her, she tells us basically not to tell anyone about our experiences with the wolf, because she doesn't want the wolf getting shot. It's just like, yeah, fair.
Well, thank you. Yes, so at least somebody.
At least there's one person. Well, Lou also doesn't want it shot.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you want to take it?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So at this point, we need to know a little bit more about the accident. So we are going to call Chantal. And when we do, we tell her, hey, we do not like working with Tino. You may not know this, but he did a bunch of like sketchy things back when I was working with him on that last case. But she says, no. He is so charming. In fact, I insist that you call him when you're stumped on this case. That's what I'm paying for, after all.
Thanks,
My
Chantal.
gosh, what is this man doing? Like,
We need to talk
Anyway.
about this too.
Yeah.
I find the trail of Tino in this to be particularly interesting as well.
But when we ask her about the accident, she tells us about several incidents. So, again, there was the food poisoning that affected multiple guests. Carl Jenkins slipped on the door outstairs and broke his leg, apparently from icy stairs. Lou Talbot's window was broken, as we know. And then Elsa, the maid's tires were slashed. Also, their phone wires were cut. Some guests were nearly asphyxiated by fumes when they got trapped in the sauna and gas started leaking inside. Somehow, no one is suing her yet. By some miracle, but of course her lawyers think that it is just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Of course. So they're trying to figure out what kind of preventative measures they can take here. So we'll ask her about a few more things here. We can ask her about the missing photos from the lobby, and she says that she doesn't really know why anybody would take those, but great, now there's stealing going on as well. She says that she is desperate for Nancy to figure out what's going on so that she can convince her dad she's not a loser.
Yeah.
Ma'am, convince yourself you're not a loser. Come on now.
Like, how you're a fully adult woman. I guess we don't know how old Chantal is, but I would imagine, I mean, at least late 20s probably. And so, wow. Yeah. Like, let's not do things for the approval of our fathers anymore.
Yeah.
Ladies.
This is also where she blames Freddie for deleting the entries in the computer from the guest log. Says that kids these days, they just love hacking so much. That's not really hacking. It's just pressing delete. But she says, oh, this is probably revenge because I called her snowball game idiotic. We also ask her about the ski competition, and she says that, yeah, maybe some people have asked me about it, but it's not something that I'm at liberty to discuss. So basically, yes, the ski competition is going to be happening here in like the next year or so. And we say, of course, hey, Chantal, if it is happening, that makes this lodge a very valuable piece of real estate because everybody's going to be in this area for these games. So it's possible somebody's trying to run you out of business so that they can buy the lodge.
Right.
After we get off the phone with her, we'll also call the sheriff to see if he has any more information about the explosion, because by now he has done his testing analysis on all the items that he took from the explosion site. And we'll also tell him about the melted clock face. And he says, yeah, I saw that too, but the heat from the explosion would have melted any physical evidence still left on the clock, so it's probably not useful anyway. Plus, all the clocks at the lodge look exactly like that. So, first of all, it could have just been one of the clocks that was already in the bunkhouse. Or if it was from somebody else's room, there's no way to know whose room it would have been from.
Unless you checked all the rooms and knew that there was one clock missing from one person's room.
Exactly. Yes. But he does tell us that the lab results did come back, and it was C4. And we're like, okay, how hard is C4 to get? And he's like, not at all hard if you're in the military or you do any kind of work using explosives. I don't know, if you're on some sort of rescue team for the avalanche patrol, maybe you would have
or construction.
Right. Yeah, some pretty easy access that way. So now at this point, like I said, there's a lot of phone calls that we have to make in this game. We're going to go through and we call all of the accident victims from the guest registry in the computer. Honestly, not a whole lot of important stuff here, just people complaining about their ruined vacations. Oh yeah, just some funny things that come out of the conversations, but nothing very consequential.
I love the couple that call it Icicle Creek Lodge.
Yes. Perfect.
That's hilarious to me.
And we do actually learn that it was actually Yanni who rescued the couple from the gas-filled sauna. So we'll ask Yanni about this, and he says that he thinks his competitors are responsible for these accidents, and he thinks that they're trying to kill him because of all the bombs going off. He says that he was out skiing and a bomb went off kind of near him, so that's why he thinks that somebody is using these to try to get to him, to kill him.
Yeah.
We can also ask Ollie about the accidents, and we'll ask about Carl Jenkins. And says Ollie says that he cannot explain this. He had just finished scraping the stairs down from ice from the stairs, the entryway to the lodge, and then just right after that, Carl Jenkins fell down the stairs. So he thinks somebody iced these on purpose. I don't know that we ever figured that out.
Nope.
If it was on purpose or not. But then we'll go talk to Bill, and he challenges us to catch a larger northern pike that he has just caught. He wants us to catch one that is 2 foot long. And so now we're going to get tasked with doing that to make him happy, because that's our job as well as guest happiness liaison. Who freaking knows? But then when we go out to the fishing hut, everything is wrecked in there, including all of Bill's fishing equipment. So someone clearly came out here and sabotaged the place, just trashed everything. But then if we look around a little bit more, we'll find like a little torn piece of paper. It looks like almost like a flyer for something called Birds of the Southwest. And there is a phone number written on it. So was this left by the person who left the lodge? Yes, it was. Because if we go back and we call, actually, if we go back first, we will get a note left for us, like by the front door of the lodge, and it's from Freddie. And she says that if we will come back and play the snowball game with her, she will give us her secret way of staying warm out in the cold for so long. Which, if we do this, we will learn that it's like those squeeze-activated hand warmers that you can just like keep in your gloves or whatever. So every time we go, they're called Toasty Packs. Every time we go and play the snowball game with Freddie, we will get a Toasty Pack from now on. But then anyway, if we call the phone number on this Birds of the Southwest thing that we found, we'll learn that the phone number is for this U.S. nonprofit group called Run and Grow Free. And it's their mission to make sure that all wild animals in North America remain wild. Who do we know that might be a member of some sort of group like this?
Also,
interesting.
Yeah, is there, some animal they might be trying to protect up here? Some... North American mammal.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Just a thought.
Okay, so then we'll go back to talk to Ollie about the ruined ice fishing shack. And he's like, oh my gosh, probably some crazy animal-loving fanatic who just wants to save the fish or some nonsense like that. So why don't you take my fishing line and go out there so that you can keep Bill happy?
Can I just ask, how does he know this? How does he know that that's what it is, but he's not attributing it to all the rest of the accidents? He's like, well, that one...
That was a human.
Was just
the wolf couldn't have done that.
Eco fanatic. It doesn't have to do with the supernatural wolf. It's just some nature loving warrior or something. What? How does he know that? Where does he get that information from? That's so crazy. Is Ollie like psychic or something? Like,
this is one of the few things the wolf could have actually done.
Yes!
It's reasonable to think the wolf could have like gotten into this door
to try
somehow.
to get some fish or something, like,
right, and
great.
just wrecked everything in there, knocked stuff over, broke stuff because it's a wolf and it knocks things over. Yeah. But Ollie's like, no, this is clearly the work of some crazy eco fanatic.
So wild that he's right.
Great. If we talk to Yanni again at this point, he will explain the real reason that he hates wolves so much.
This is
and it's because his grandmother was eaten by wolves, so he says. He tells us the story of long ago back in his home country where his grandmother was, just like on the side of the road or like going home. It was really late at night. She had like a little motor scooter. And she's just, going down the road at night. And there is this guy who, I guess maybe he had like an issue with his bike or something. There's this guy that's like stranded on the side of the road. And a pack of wolves is about to come eat him. And of course, like it's January, so it's super, super cold. It's really dark outside out by this point. And so the whole story is like obviously very far-fetched, but essentially the story goes that the grandmother is like trying to like help this guy get away. So she tells him to hop on the back of the scooter. And then as they're getting away, both of their weight makes the scooter go too slow to effectively get away. So the guy just pushes the grandmother off and then himself gets away. And then the grandmother's like eaten. And Nancy's like, okay, well, that's really sad or whatever, but how do you know if that's what happened, if your grandmother died from this? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, that other guy confessed. And Nancy's like, okay, he just told you all this. Oh, no, it was guilt. He confessed and like he went to prison for forever.
What the heck?
Okay. Great.
Also,
fun fact.
This is like if it's true, it's such a horrifying story. Like, yes,
Right.
it's super far-fetched or whatever, but like, yes, really a horrifying story. Why do I laugh so hard when he tells this story? Why is it so funny to me? Am I a horrible person? Or is it supposed to be funny? It's supposed to be funny, right?
It's supposed to be so absurd. It's funny.
But,
yeah.
Like, why? Why are we... Also, it's like too real. You know what I mean? Because it's like we're dealing with like all of this stuff about like this wolf out in the wilderness. The wolf saved our life, but everybody wants to kill the wolf. And then we hear a story about how this pack of wolves ate his grandmother. And it's like... supposed to be comedy to us. Like, who wrote this? Like, what the heck? What is this? What is this?
And why is he telling this really traumatic story to someone he's just met?
Yes.
Like yesterday.
The maid to this lodge. He's like, wait, hold on. Before you go about your work, I need to tell you something. Wait. Wait, I have something really important to tell you. My grandmother was eaten by wolves. We're like, what? Can you imagine? You're just at your job. You're at your job, like trying to like clean this guy's room, and he stops you, like I'm
Caked
crying.
up and is like, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I need you to know what happened back in Fredonia.
My grandmother is dead.
Don't worry, the guy who did it went to prison after he told me the story.
Why am I crying? I'm crying.
I'm crying as well. Oh my gosh.
I guess, never mind. You know what? I take it back. I guess whoever did write this really knew what they were doing, because it's so funny to me.
It's a masterpiece of a story.
Oh my god. Oh.
We didn't even ask.
No.
Oh
we
my
didn't ask the first time either. The first time he told us the wolves were evil, we didn't ask. We just wanted to know if he'd seen it. Like, and he's like, well, in my country, maid, the wolves are evil, so...
The wolves are evil and they're spies. They're after me. They're bombing the snow so that I don't win the Olympics.
Oh my gosh.
The wolf is also setting off the bombs. Oh my gosh, why am I crying?
This is really not good for my congestion right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, should we take a break real quick?
I need some more water.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
Goodness. Okay, so
where were we?
Yanni's showing off his booty and trauma dumping, and after we've been
don't kick it off again. Oh my god.
okay, so we get that whole story, and Nancy's like, "Great, okay, talk to you later." So we go back to the ice fishing shack now that we have all these. Oh my gosh,
fishing equipment.
Now that we have all these fishing equipment, and this is a pretty simple mini game. There's just we get a shot of the water, and there's just like fish swimming around, and then you click your mouse to like bring the
bobber
the fishing hook up and down. Exactly. So eventually we'll catch the correct fish based off the knowledge of the computer. It tells us which type of fish that we need to go catch. And then as soon as we're done, we leave the ice fishing shack, and someone in a black snowsuit decks Nancy with an ice ball. Snowball made of ice, which knocks her unconscious, of course. And then when Nancy comes to, we hear an explosion. And Nancy realizes that she's floating on a patch of ice on this frozen lake, and her coat is gone. And then we hear the wolf howl, and we see it standing on the other side of the lake from us. And it's not our coat, but it has a coat with it.
Yeah.
And so clearly this wolf has like somehow figured out that we're about to freeze to death and has brought us a coat.
Yes.
So now there's this awful, awful mini game where there's these like all these ice floes and Nancy has to jump from ice floe to get to the other side of the lake. It's awful. It's not that hard in theory. You're just jumping around the lake, but you have to like jump in a certain pattern to get the last ice floe to appear.
Yes.
And if you don't do that, sometimes it will never appear. And so Nancy just can't get to the other side of the lake. So sometimes she'll just die of hypothermia while you're doing this.
Right.
So you have to do that over and over until you finally get to the other side of the lake. When we get there, the wolf has already left by this point, but the coat is still there, and we'll put it on. Nancy's now safe from dying of hypothermia. But then we realize that there's this strange note in the pocket that has like 4 weird symbols on it. It's actually just numbers. If you look at it really closely, it's the number and then the same number like pasted over it, but backwards.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of look funky, but when you look at it, you'll notice that it's a code that we'll need later.
Yeah.
So now, obviously, we can't go back the way that we came because it's been exploded. So we'll just follow the wolf tracks back home. But first, it actually leads us back to the Avalanche Ridge, but the snow here is too deep for us to like for us to continue following the wolf tracks up this like path that the wolf was going down. So at least now we kind of know where we are, so we're able to just turn around and get back to the lodge from there. But we are going to need some snowshoes if we are going to want to like go back and investigate the direction that the wolf had been walking in. Do you want to take it from here?
Sure. So in order to get snowshoes, we can ask Chantal because there's a display in the lobby that has some snowshoes in it. So we can ask her for the code to that display so that we can get the snowshoes. And she will give it to us. But first, she wants us to fill out a survey that Tino has come up with, which apparently will give us like the criminal profile of all the guests and help him determine exactly who the culprit to all of these sabotage incidents is. Questions on this survey include which side of the bed the guest gets up from, their hometown, which planet they most identify with, and if they hate paprika. We're gonna crack the case wide open with that. So we can work on that. We can also try to catch Lupe out and ask her for a book on birds. And we can like either say the truth that we found like the cover of like that, you know, Birds of the Southwest thing in the ice shack, or lie and say we want it for like an upcoming trip or whatever. Either way, she says she left all her bird books at home, so we're out of luck. But then something falls out of Lupe's pocket and it looks like a bullet. It is a bullet. And we ask if it's hers, and she's like, oh, no way. Like, I would never carry a bullet. This is a hunting lodge. It probably just was already on the floor, and you, like, kicked it when you moved or something, you know? But Nancy can accuse her of using that bullet to alter the sights on Ollie's rifle. We know that this is possible, I think, because there's, like, a magazine article somewhere about how to, like, you know, adjust your rifle sight with a bullet. I think it's in Yanni's room or something, some magazine article. And so we can know that that's maybe what she did with this. And Nancy can say, like, you know, that's why Ollie's been missing the wolf whenever he tries to shoot it, because you messed with his sight on his gun. And we can also say that we think, or Nancy says that she knows that she's a member of Run and Grow Free and that she wants to protect the wolf at any cost. And Nancy says, you know, I don't want anything bad to happen to the wolf either. So, like, it's okay. Like, I get it. And you can tell me about this. And so Lupe will confess to this and say that, yes, she did alter the sight on Ollie's rifle. And that, yes, she is a member of Run and Grow Free. But she's here undercover and she won't tell us anything else. And that we shouldn't say anything else to anybody either, to protect the wolf, right? However, Nancy can tell Ollie about the bullet, and I think Nancy doesn't say straight out that Lupe is like messed with his sights, but she can tell him about finding the bullet, and I think he comes to his own conclusion, and then will kick her out of the lodge the next morning, calling her bleeding heart hippie. Wow.
Great for business.
Yes.
Excellent.
Can
Way to
you
kick us.
choose not to tell Ollie about it? Or
I'm sure you can.
Okay.
But eventually she gets kicked out either way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He just finds out. Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Because I was going to say, I know that, like, you could, like, delay it from happening, but
Mhm.
I don't know if you could choose not to do it. But okay. Good to know.
Yeah. I think you can.
Yeah. I feel like I never make that choice because I always like to exhaust all my conversation options.
Yeah. Mhm. And you know it's inevitable anyway. Might as well
Yeah.
just get to it.
Yeah. Okay, so after we've collected all of the information for Tino's survey, you have to like sneak paprika into people's foods and like check their beds in the morning to see which side they got up from and etc. We send it to Tino, who says that Bill is the culprit, but he seems to have confused Bill with like all of the other guests combined. So
Yeah.
it's pretty useless, basically. But he does pass along the snowshoe code to us, so I guess it wasn't entirely a waste of time. So now we have the snowshoes and we can follow the wolf tracks back out at Avalanche Ridge. And when we're on this trail off to the side, we see this leather-bound book with pictures of pieces of furniture around the lodge and like notes in this book that these pictures are like of prehistoric bones. Like the furniture is made out of bones, prehistoric bones, and that they will fetch excellent prices. It also has notes that say that they've done like searching in the field for other finds and also have taken the bone in the display in the lobby to a lab for precise ID. Interesting. We don't know who this belongs to, but we see all this information. When we keep walking down this path, we eventually come to a cabin, and it's locked, but we can use the code from the note in the jacket that we got by the lake to unlock the door. And inside is like this really run down, partially trashed cabin. And in the cabin, we find a diary titled The Rest of My Life by Julius McQuaid. And so this seems to be the journal of some guy who lived here. And he like left his job in a lab testing on animals to be like alone in the wilderness in the cabin because he's just like tired of people, right? Hashtag relatable. He ended up rescuing a white wolf pup that was all by itself in some brambles, and once he freed it, it like ran off, but then it like started following him, and it starts like coming closer and closer to him. And he ends up naming the wolf Isis, which is a beautiful name. And he doesn't feed her, but like the wolf keeps like coming around, and he actually has seen the wolf hunt for itself, so he knows that it can kind of like fend for itself, but they do end up kind of like developing this really close relationship, even though like he never is able to like touch the wolf, but the wolf will come up like really close to him, and he's even able to like teach the wolf commands, which is really interesting. And he lists the commands in the journal. And he also says, and in fact, like Isis is so smart that you can give her chains of commands to follow and she'll do it. And he also tells us, or he says in the journal, that Isis is great at identifying objects' owners by scent. So Nancy has the idea that she can get things from each of the guests with their scent on it from the lodge and use Isis to determine who the owner of the notebook that we just found is. This is
She's
wild.
not a dog.
This is so wild. Literally just moments ago, we were terrified of this wolf, and now Nancy's like, you know what? Let's put this wolf to work. Like, what?
This man was keeping her as a dog, just letting her live as a pet.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course she's very smart, but like,
to be fair,
dude.
he never like called the wolf. The wolf just came up to him.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he does make that clear.
He never feeds the wolf. He didn't even let the wolf into his cabin. Initially, she just found a way in, and he like woke up and she was sleeping in there. And which is wild. I guess it's because she was a puppy when he rescued her, and so the wolf just kind of imprinted on him, which is really just unfortunate. But I guess the wolf would not have survived on its own anyway. So yeah, it's just it's a sad situation. A really sad situation. Anyway, it's sadder too because at the end of the journal, it gets more sad because at the end of the journal, we learn that this guy Julius got really, really sick, so he had to go to like the local hospital. That's like the end of the journal. So it's like unclear whether he's still there or not, but like he writes at the end of the journal that he hates the idea of leaving Isis, who has come to mean the world to him, and hates the thought that she might believe that he's abandoned her. So, and presumably because he's like, the wolf is like out and about, whatever, like he must have died, right? And like you can even call the hospital later and learn that yes, this guy did pass away and he has no living relatives and like nothing to his name. And
So
now
sad.
this wolf is just, who can't really, I mean, I guess can fend for herself, but like is not really scared of humans, is just out on her own.
Yeah.
So freaking sad. So sad. Also, my
Poor
worst
wolf.
nightmare is like getting sick
I
and
know.
dying and like leaving my cats and they think that I've just abandoned them. Yeah.
It's horrible.
Heartbreaking. Anyway, then we turn around and we hear growling and see Isis, who is just standing there. She calms down enough and we can like actually give her commands, which is pretty cool, but also just like really wild.
Yeah.
Upon further exploration in the cabin, we see on the wall is like this panel with an indentation that looks like the missing Rex bone from the lobby would like fit into it. So we probably need to find that. Also under the cot in here is some kind of like weird metal device object thing that honestly looks like a uterus.
Yeah, it does.
And it's got like this phone number on it. So we should try to figure out what that is as well. Once we get back to the lodge, there is a note left for us from Lupe asking us to call her. And when we do, she basically immediately asks about the wolf's welfare and basically explains that the reason why she was here is because her organization is trying to arrange to have the wolf captured and taken to a sanctuary so that it will be safe. But they can't find a sanctuary with room, so she's still like working on that, and she was here to try to observe the wolf and make sure that nothing happened to it in the meantime, but she got kicked out, of course. But she tells us that she says that the wolf not running away from us is very bad news because it means that the wolf is not scared of humans, and so of course if it's coming up to humans then accidents can happen because the wolf is still a wild animal, right? She also does admit to wrecking the ice fishing shack. She says she was trying to keep people from venturing out and running into the wolf, but she does say that she's not responsible for any of the other sabotage, and she definitely has not been setting off explosions. Okay. When we call the number that was on that metal thingy, we reach someone named Dr. Nikki Salvatini, and she tells us the device we found is a geophone. And someone stole a whole crate of them from her when she was out on Skookum Ridge not too long ago. And she says that a geophone basically detects seismic waves, which helps geologists map mineral deposits. And she was working on a full geological survey of the area, and she had grant money and everything, but then when her equipment was stolen, it ruined her survey, right? And she further explains that the way the device works means that you have to detonate something nearby in order to, like, you know, detect like how the seismic waves are like bouncing off of things in the area. So that's probably what the explosions are about. We can ask her about dinosaur bones, and she says she doesn't really know much about them, but she does know that there's a big black market for them. So that's all interesting information. At this point, too, we can speak to Elsa, the previous maid, who's also voiced by Lonnie Manella. I don't know why we can't call her earlier, but for some reason...
We can.
It would not let me.
Really?
It would, like, call and I would get a busy signal every time until this point. So, like, every time I go back to the phone, I try to call her again. But it wouldn't let me call her at first.
That's so weird. It lets me call her pretty much, like, right away. I always call just as soon as I find her notes.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work.
That's so weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's really weird. But anyway, when we talk to Elsa, we ask her about her tires being slashed, and she blames the wolf for ripping her tires apart. She says the lodge is jinxed. And she also says if we're calling to try to deny her unemployment claim, then we should know that it's totally legit. But then we can ask her if she's sure that her tires getting torn up didn't have anything to do with Elle, her really psycho ex-paramour, right? And then she admits that, yes, actually it was her ex, Larry. And she blamed the wolf so that she could quit and file for unemployment so that she could take time to focus on her singing career. And she promises to correct her unemployment claim. So,
Okay.
yes. Whatever, Elsa, do what you want.
Yeah, we're very concerned about that.
And we don't like Chantal, so.
The worst.
Then the next time we're cleaning the rooms, we find an angry note in Bill's room. And it seems like he's written it himself, which I do think is kind of odd. Guess he's just like venting or whatever. But basically he's upset about some kind of unfair situation, and it's really vague. But he talks about thieves and how he doesn't have what's rightfully his and how he wants justice for something being stolen from him. So we don't know what that could be about. We can also then collect a washcloth from each of the guests and present them to Isis at the cabin. And then when she stiffs them, she will identify the notebook as belonging to Lou. Things happened very quickly in succession here for me as well. Mm-hmm. So they're really random conjunction of things happened. Because then when we return to the lodge, we find an envelope with an article sent by Tino, which is about Lou. Apparently, he was arrested in Montana for trespassing, vandalism, and theft when he was excavating on private property. He claimed to have just been there creating earthitecture, which is what he calls his artwork, his dirt artwork, earthitecture. Inspired by maverick artist Papi Dada. Hey, hey, hey! Yay! And the charges were dropped after Lou convinced the property owners that he didn't intend to keep the dinosaur bones he had inadvertently dug up. So, earthitecture, my butt, he was not just out there doing art. He was definitely looking for dinosaur bones to sell on the black market.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, we can confront him about all of this and ask for the Rex bone back that he took from the display, because it must have been him who stole it. And he admits that, yes, he collects bones and sells them, but he denies making the explosions. He says he may have found some specimens in craters, but he did not make them. Okay, interesting. And then he gives us the key to the closet in his room so that we can take the Rex bone, which is where he's keeping it. And then when we take that and put it in the slot in the cabin, a panel will open where we have to slide these little tokens in a certain order. And you can solve this now, but if you wait, we'll get a little bit more help in solving this puzzle when we find something else. Do you want to take it?
Sure. So the next time we come back to the lodge, there is an anonymous note left for us saying, hey, come meet us down in the basement sauna. Because there's some interesting information that you need to know about. So we go down there, and the basement is deserted. Neither Yanni nor Ollie is in their normal spot, so we just go into the sauna. But when we get in there is a couple of photographs just laying on the bench inside the sauna. And they're of a little boy with a birthmark on his face, and the pictures were clearly taken in the lodge. And if we look at the birthmark, it's the exact same placement and shape as the same birthmark that Bill has on his face. So clearly this is Bill as a little boy. But he told us that he's never been here before. So what's with the lying? And then the sauna starts to get way too hot. What do we think is going to happen here? So surprise, surprise, we turn around, the door is locked behind us, and we have to solve a quick little puzzle in order to rotate the pipes to get them into the right position to let the air flow through. So we do this little puzzle, and then as soon as we do this, Bill pops in the door and rescues us. It's like, hey, I heard somebody down here. Are you okay? It wasn't him that trapped us in there, supposedly, we think. I don't know. But he's like, hey, let's go upstairs and we'll talk about these photos that you found.
Yeah.
So he does admit that he was the little boy, or he is the little boy in those photos. And his late grandmother, whose name was Tilly Wentworth, used to own this lodge. Some guy bullied her into selling it just a couple years before she died and never told her family. So I guess the family was expecting to inherit this place, but the guy that she sold it to was Chantal's father.
Yeah.
So Bill is upset. Apparently he seems to think that this constitutes theft, that the lodge should be his, but whatever. And he says that he didn't do any of the sabotage, but he's not mad about it because he's like, oh, well, karma was coming to him anyway, so
We need to talk about this later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. But we also do get a little tip from him because, he grew up here. He knows the ins and outs of everything in this place. So there's this little pyramid statue in the lobby that's like, it's got all these little animals on it. And basically each panel has a different animal on it. If you rotate all the panels the same way so that like it's only showing one animal on all sides, then it will open up. But you do it and then there's nothing inside. So Bill tells us, he gives us this advice. Turn the top of the pyramid 90 degrees, and then that will like essentially reset the puzzle. So there's another puzzle you have to do with it now. But then when you solve that, the pyramid thing will open up, and inside you find Trapper Dan's journal.
Nice.
Yay! So this is going to help us figure out quite a few things actually that we need in order to do all the things that we need to do in order to get inside of his needle.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially there are 4 tokens that we're going to need in order to open the needle. And so this is the information that we find that helps us open that door in the little cabin. And basically once we are able to open that door, the door opens into this like green lit tunnel. And then down there's more puzzles that we have to solve. And then if we're able to solve all of those, then we'll be able to put those tokens in to access the inside of the needle.
Yeah.
Also, the tunnels are green because there's like rocks, like radioactive rocks in cages, like suspended from the ceilings, like they're lights.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. This is clearly an old mining tunnel, though. There's clearly like mining carts and tracks down here, a bunch of barrels, just a bunch of like cargo type of stuff down here. And this is also where Nancy just walks forever and ever and ever. And you're just like down in these tunnels for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually we'll find this old chamber in the tunnels. And this is where we'll see a like map of this maze that are these tunnels that go essentially under all of Icicle Creek and the lodge and this whole massive area. And apparently Trapper Dan used to train his pet pig Mary to like navigate these tunnels because I guess they're too small for a human to go through. But it turns out Isis is now able to do the exact same functions that Mary the pig was able to do. So we're going to be able to use Isis to basically do all the things that Trapper Dan was doing to get into the needle. How convenient.
Yep.
If we go up a staircase and then down another tunnel, we'll get to the spot in the maze where Isis is able to like pull on a rope. And if she pulls on the rope tight enough for long enough, and by the way, if you look at the clock in the game, she has to do this for like a good 2 hours because that's how long it takes Nancy to walk from these tunnels, get out of the tunnels, back up into this cabin, and then walk from the cabin back to the lodge.
Oh my gosh.
We finally get back to the lodge. We go upstairs in the lodge, and there's this like boar's head mounted above the fireplace upstairs where all the guest rooms are. And because she's pulling that rope, it's holding the mouth open for the boar, and inside the boar's mouth is a token. So that's the first token that we need. There's also something that we have to do. There's a moose taxidermied head in Yanni's room. We have to push the eye on that, and then it opens up a secret panel in the wall in his room. Inside there is another token, but then there's also a little radio in there. Nancy remarks that like clearly Yanni owns this. So why is he hiding it? And how did he know about this little secret compartment in order to hide it? We'll actually ask him about it. He says that he uses this radio to communicate with his coaches, and there's like a special signal in the radio that it scrambles everything so his competition can't listen in. I don't think that's a real thing.
No.
Is it? I don't know. But anyway, we'll also talk to Ollie while we're down here, and he tells us that Lou just up and left. I guess he doesn't really like being accused of theft or smuggling. Who knows? Ollie doesn't know why. Of course we do. But this relieves us of our cooking duty, unless you're us, and we're just still going to do it anyway from here on out. But basically, he says that because it's only him, his daughter, Bill, and Yanni, like he can just handle the cooking from now on. We'll also ask Ollie if Freddie is the one who broke Lou Talbot's window, because earlier in the game there was this, like, clearly he'd been making Freddie write lines of, like, I will not throw ice balls, I will not throw ice balls.
Apparently it's really easy to miss. I think not a lot of people find it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Because Ollie's only not at his station at certain times.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare for him to not be there. So you have to just kind of catch him at the right time to be able to see that this is there.
Yeah.
But eventually he will admit that, yeah, it was Freddie, but please don't tell Chantal because she doesn't like kids. And of course, I don't want like her to get mad and kick Freddie out or something like that. But he does say that, I thought she was aiming for Yanni's window.
She
not
doesn't like
Lou's.
that guy. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think this is so clever, though. That makes so much sense that it was an ice ball because it melted. So that's why you didn't see anything in the room. It makes so much sense. Anyway.
Perfect. But now where there's another token that we can get, on each of the guest room doors, right above the doorknob, is a little lock that can change colors. And then if you change the colors according to this display that's down in the lobby, it will open up yet another secret compartment and we get another token from that. And then we have to go back to the little cabin to do this. But essentially, Isis has been using a Geiger counter as a chew toy in the cabin. It's just like in her little bed. So we take that back to the lodge because there's something in the notes in Trapper Dan's journal about the Geiger counter being involved with the token. So we have to take the Geiger counter back to the lodge and basically like walk around until we find like the spot in the lodge where it's going
the most
off the
radioactive.
highest, yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, all of the like taxidermied animals have like green eyes that are clearly like the same green rocks from the tunnels, and they will actually start making the Geiger counter go off more.
Yeah.
So you just have to wander around until you find the spot. It's in the basement. You like lift up one of the stairs, the panels on one of the stairs. You lift that up, and it's inside there. So now we have all 4 of our tokens. But there are still these panel things in front of the little spots in the tunnel where the tokens are supposed to fit into. So in order to raise the panels, we first have to beat Bill at Fox and Geese, which is the board game that he's been playing this whole time. I don't even know how to describe the playing of Fox and Geese. Basically, there's one fox, there's all these geese, and we're playing as the geese. We're not moving the fox token at all, but every time you move a geese, the fox has the opportunity to like jump over it. And if there's no other geese around a given goose, then the fox can like jump over it and then it eats that goose.
Right.
So you don't want all your geese eaten by the fox before you win the game. And if you trap the fox,
you win.
Then you win.
Yeah.
So you have to win 4 times, and it's very tedious. You get through it, but then we're going to go and have Isis go through the maze tunnel, or the maze within the tunnels, to get the little panels to come up so that we can put the tokens in.
Right.
Again, Isis is like really good at taking commands, so you have to like study this maze on the map and tell Isis, okay, like turn left here, and then you're going to jump over this thing, and then turn right, and then go down and keep going straight, and then you're going to use your paw to like flip the lever, and then you'll come back, and then you have to do all 4 of the panels to do that. So Isis will go through and do her part of the thing, and then this is where we can go and put the tokens in the slots. Do you want to take the ending?
Sure. So when we put all the tokens in the slot, this unlocks the door and we can go into Trapper Dan's needle. And the room really isn't anything special. It just looks like another underground room here in this mining tunnel. But we do see a black snowsuit kind of hung up on the door that is missing a piece of fabric. And this is the same outfit that someone was wearing when they hit Nancy with that ice ball. And also in this room is a backpack from UC Brea. That's the school that Lou goes to. And inside this backpack is full of C4. So Nancy surmises that Lou was the one making the craters. He must have just lied and said that he didn't do it, but he actually was. He was been using C4 to look for dinosaur bones. As soon as we make this discovery, we hear footsteps behind us, and Yanni walks up. He's shocked to see us. He says he was just skiing and passed the needle and saw like the door to the needle was open, so he came down here and found us. Side note. Okay, I am just assuming that when we put the tokens in the thing, it opened up the front door to the needle as well as the back door to the needle, because I swear to all that is holy, if we did all of this and then the front door of the needle was just open the whole time, we just never walked back there, I'd be so pissed. Anyway.
That's so funny.
So he comes down here, and Nancy explains that she found explosives in Lou's bag, and Yanni says that we should stay here and guard the bag while he goes to tell Ollie to call the cops. But as he's going to go do that, he drops something. It's this little like electronic device thing that he always wears on his arm. We assume it's just some kind of like fitness monitor or whatever. But then Isis comes in and she has a glove. And this is the same glove from the snowsuit that was in here. She must have just picked it up on her way in. But then she drops it next to the electronic device, and that's her tell for when an object belongs to someone, right?
Yeah.
So we realize that this means that Yanni was the one who wore the snowsuit. And so this means that Yanni is the one who decked Nancy in the face with the snowball. So then we look closer at the device, and it seems to indicate that Yanni has armed some kind of detonator and is now trying to blow up the needle. This all happens very quickly at the end of the game, which is really quite jarring, too, after the slowness of everything else. It's like, oh, it's Lou. Oh, wait. Oh, no, it's Yanni. Oh, now Yanni's trying to blow us up. We gotta run. So we flee the needle with Isis. Isis comes, too.
Yes,
Don't worry.
she's fine. Don't worry.
She's fine.
Yes.
And we get out just in time as the needle explodes behind us. Isis howls, and then we hear Yanni getting away on his snowmobile. And then Ollie shows up on his snowmobile, very confused as to what's happening. And we don't have time to explain, so we just jump on his snowmobile and take off after Yanni. Then we have the world's longest snowmobile chase.
Seriously.
Minigame. Like, why is it so long? Why? Long. And it's so annoying because if you hit a tree or a rock or something enough times, you blow up and you have to start over. You also have to stay like close enough to Yanni. You can't let him get too far away or to start over. It's like the most annoying thing. And also like the driving mechanic for this is so frustrating because you have to like click far enough away and like move your mouse so that it's so frustrating. Anyway, when you do that, eventually Yanni ends up, you don't catch up to him. He just ends up crashing. And he gets laid out in the snow. And this is the end of the game. And Nancy explains that while laying there, Yanni confessed to all the rest of the sabotage, though he swears he didn't mean for Nancy to get stuck in the sauna, which I thought was hilarious. Apparently, he just put the photos in there to frame Bill for all the sabotage, but because the sauna door just sometimes gets stuck, Nancy got trapped. It's just so funny. It's so funny of me to think that one of the most scariest and threatening moments of the game is just an accident. It's just an accident caused by faulty things at the lodge. Chantal really does deserve to be sued. Not by all of the other guests, but by Nancy, because Nancy was forced into labor. She wasn't paid. She was essentially brought out to this lodge and told, oh, by the way, you're going to have 2 extra jobs. And then she ends up getting stuck in the sauna and almost dying. So anyway... But basically, he explains that this whole time he's been spying for the country of Fredonia and trying to locate uranium deposits for some unidentified reason. We don't know. Presumably, it's to make weapons of mass destruction, but we don't know. And he never meant to harm anyone. He just wanted to scare people away from the lodge so that he could search for uranium in peace.
Well, it's not in the lodge, so why not just go out and ski alone? It's so quiet out here anyway.
Which is what he's been doing. And, people have noticed the explosions, but nobody seems to know who's responsible for them. So clearly you're getting away with it, dude.
They're more than happy to blame the wolf. Just let them keep doing that.
Right. Right. But that's the reason he gives. And also now Chantal gets back to the lodge, and apparently actually the publicity from all these accidents have helped the lodge's bookings. So it's no longer in financial trouble. And also Lupe has located a sanctuary for Isis, which will be much safer for her. However, that doesn't mean that they also don't leave off the game by saying, however, it's very sad that Isis will never be able to run free again. And that's the end.
Well, thanks for leaving us with that thought. Yeah.
We couldn't just leave on, and she's going to live out her days in a sanctuary where she'll be very happy and, you know, be able to do as much like jumping, pawing, navigating mazes as she wants. Whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We couldn't leave it
Yeah.
off on that. We have to say, but Isis will never be free again. What the heck?
Oh.
Why is this so sad?
Oh.
But yeah, that's the end, and then we get a trailer for Legend of the Crystal Skull. So,
Yes.
woohoo! I guess. Oh boy! Oh boy! All right.
And you get to do cooking the whole time. So fun.
Okay, we have to talk about this ending because this, I think, is the weakest ending to any Nancy Drew game that exists.
It's very, very weak.
Like,
yeah.
this is worse than like the ending specifically, not the whole game, but the ending is probably the worst that I think exists.
Yeah.
Because it just, the speed at which it happens.
Well, no. Shattered Medallion, I have to say, is worse because they don't explain anything that happened.
But like, I feel like the explanations that we haven't replayed Shattered Medallion. We should have an episode about that soon. But I feel like when you replay Shattered Medallion, the ending, it's like, yeah, it's really vague and they don't explain anything. But I feel like at least it leaves you with something that makes more sense than this. At least you could extrapolate a meaning. Whereas like this, the proposed explanation they give you doesn't make any sense. At least with the other one, they don't give you an explanation. You could just make it up. Like this one, they give it to you and it's like, that can't be it. That can't be it. Because the thing is like, yeah, like we were saying, like if Yanni is really spying for the country of Fredonia, like what is the need for all of the sabotage?
Right.
And like, also like, it's just so out of the blue. It just comes out of nowhere. It's like, there's no way that we could have figured that out. Like, yeah. I mean, the only reason we figure it out is because Isis identifies like a snowsuit that he wore that Nancy witnessed him wearing. Like, it's just very like, Nancy didn't do any detectiving. Like, there weren't any little secret clues that built up to this. Right. Except the radio. But the radio doesn't make any sense. Like,
the radio just, it feels irrelevant, honestly.
It's totally irrelevant. It's also not a two-way communication radio. It's just a little tiny, like, portable, like, AM, FM radio. Like, it's not, there's no, like, speaker piece. You can't talk into it. So the only thing it could be used for is if he is getting, like, transmissions or whatever from the Fredonian government, which I guess makes sense. But, like, he could have been getting communication from anyone or like or anything, or the reason why he has it is because Fredonia is like just like a really like high control country or something, and he wants to use it to listen to American radio, but the country would look down on that, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, like it could be literally anything. So like we don't get any secret notes that we have to decode or any like spy equipment, or we don't get even any clues that Yanni is the one. Like, there's nothing about him that, like, points to uranium. Like, that's the reason, that's really what he's out there doing. Like, nothing like that. Whereas we get, like, for Lou, of course, there's, like, the whole dinosaur bone thing. And we get, like, all of those books in his room on, like, geology and all of that stuff. And, like, also, what does Call of the Wild have to do with anything? I'm sorry, I didn't put this in the summary, but Call of the Wild is in someone's room. It's in Lou's room, I think. It's in Lou's room. Is that just irrelevant? Like, he was just reading that?
So. I think he was just reading up on wolves, and it's suspicious that, like, why do you know so much about wolves? Okay. That's a crime, I guess.
And then, like, Bill has, like, construction books in his room, so it's, like, that's implied that he's the one who has the explosives because of those. And then, of course, in Lupe's room, she has that article on Yanni, so it's, like, why are you looking into other... you know, guess. There's nothing like that for Yanni. We don't get any clues like that. It's just ski equipment. That's it.
It's not even like he's cheating. It's not even like it's the expected thing that this has something to do with the cross-country championship or whatever. You would never make the leap to go, oh, he's actually doing undercover work for his government.
What? For uranium. Looking for uranium. I'm sorry. We're in the Canadian Rockies, okay? So, like, tell me why it is necessary for the Fredonian government to sponsor a cross-country skier to come and stay at a lodge in the middle of nowhere to look for uranium. They could send literally anybody, and no one would ever notice they were out there. Like, it just seems unbelievable. Like, he's unbelievably high profile. If you're really trying to do something sneaky, why are you getting someone who's essentially famous from your country to come out and do it? That makes no sense. That's bananas.
Also, just the logistics. If his cover is that he's out there skiing and he's just practicing skiing all day, is he literally just carrying around backpacks full of bombs and skiing with that to go and like settle this up? Like, nobody's like, hey, Yanni, what's all that stuff on your back? It's not normal for you to practice with a backpack on.
The backpack situation. So he must have stolen Lou's backpack?
That's what I read it as, yeah.
Why? But Lou doesn't mention that his backpack was stolen.
No, he doesn't. Unless it happened like as he was leaving and he's already gone, so that's why we don't get to talk to him about it.
But like, what's the purpose of Yanni stealing the backpack?
Does Yanni not
have his own? But it was in Trapper Dance Needle. He never expected anybody to get into Trapper Dance Needle. Presumably, that's why he had all the C4 there.
That's true, yeah.
Like, so it doesn't make any sense. Also, how did he get it? Did he break into Lou's room and nobody noticed? Like, this is it doesn't add up.
Somebody's been breaking into the rooms because somebody left Nancy's coat behind in Lupe's room after she leaves. I don't think we said this in the summary, but
I didn't.
After Lupe leaves at some point, if we go upstairs, there will be one of those little like cleaning thing. You know, in the hotel doors, you put the thing if you want the maid to come in and clean. And you're like, I've already done the cleaning for the day. That should have been done already. So you go in the room.
Also,
and
it's on an unoccupied room.
Right, yeah. And so Nancy goes in and her coat that it's been like the one that she lost after the ice ball incident and the explosion at the fishing shack, it's just hanging in the wardrobe, but it's like all clawed and everything. And there's a note attached to it. It's like, leave now or whatever.
Yeah, leave
so
the
somebody is breaking into rooms. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I don't know. It does not make sense to me. I feel like this ending it
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't add up. And I feel like there's got to be some other kind of explanation for this. And I wonder about Bill. Okay? Because what the heck is he doing there? He says he's not there to do sabotage or whatever, but then why are you here?
Right.
He doesn't ever explain. He says at first, of course, that he's just here on vacation, but we learn that actually he's really pissed off about the fact that his family lodge or whatever was like sold out from under him and the rest of the family. So are you just visiting just for kicks? Just to see how new management is handling it? I guess, but like...
I thought it was going to be him.
It seems like the whole game is set up for it to be him. But then we just do like some diversion at the end for no reason. Because we didn't want to make Bill a bad guy. And instead we want like a weird Eastern European coded villain. Like, can we talk about that?
Right.
Can we talk about how, like, Yanni is, like, talking with an accent, is very clearly Eastern European, probably Russian, and ends up being, like, this mustache-twirling bad guy who's looking for uranium presumably to make, you know, nuclear weapons for some country. This is very Cold War, like, feeling, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just feels a little bit racist. Like, a little bit.
Didn't age super well.
No. Yeah. No. Doesn't. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Oh, can we talk about what the heck is Trapper Dance Needle supposed to be for, actually? Because down there's all the C4 that Yanni is keeping to do the explosives works or whatever. There's also jars and jars of mayonnaise.
That's for the expired potato salad. That's how he sabotaged those.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
This is where he's like keeping all the stuff. I assumed, though, that the original purpose before it's used as the layer or whatever, that it was just like Navy research stuff. Like it was just some center for them to do their work or something. I don't know.
That's so interesting. See, I want to know more about that. Like,
maybe it was like some sort of speakeasy for all the Trapper Dance famous like visitors or whatever.
Presumably. I mean, the whole thing about him making tunnels and secret passageways and stuff for his like fur smuggling operation. I get that. But then like, what the heck does the Navy have to do with it? And was it just like, I don't understand.
Maybe that's why Fredonia sent someone out. And they're like, oh, the Canadian Navy has been real busy in this area up until recently. Maybe there's something we need to go check out.
Yeah, maybe it was like had to do with the uranium deposits.
Maybe that would have been. Maybe we should have found like an article or something talking about the Navy or about uranium, and that would have helped.
I saw this Reddit post when I was doing some Googling before this about how in like the cheats menu and whatever, you can find like all of these unused audio files that basically explain that there is this whole radium subplot that just isn't included because of Marie Curie. Yes.
And then the lights in the tunnel, or not the lights, but like the rocks that are also glowing in the lodge. Okay.
Yeah, and it seemed like seemed like from those that they meant to do a lot more with the whole radium aspect.
Well, that would have made everything fine.
Uranium, but then they didn't for some reason, or I don't know.
I just ran out of time or money or both.
Maybe. But yeah. It definitely seems like there's more information that needed to be added to make this plot make sense.
I always forget about the like missing, or the not missing, but like unused audio files. Mm-hmm. There's a website somewhere, some wiki where it's got like all of them and you can go look.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and just listen to all of them and play. But I'd have to find it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
From what I could see from the Reddit post, they like, I think they wrote out like a transcript of what they all say, and it didn't seem to be anything that was particularly interesting. Like, it didn't give too much information, but it definitely, there was like more conversations you could have about the uranium, about radiation, and specifically like with Chantal, because Chantal ends up, we can tell her about like the moose head or like the dinosaur bones being like radioactive, and she gets freaked out about how, you know, it's like it could be a hazard for guests and like something else she has to worry about. But Nancy can also talk to the Dr. Salvatini or whatever her name is, and she'll say that it's probably not a danger, but she would recommend like removing them just in case. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was something definitely that got cut. I believe it now.
Yeah.
Completely convinced.
But thank you for explaining the mayonnaise. I didn't even think about the potato salad. I was just like, why is there mayonnaise here? Is it like for storage, but nobody could get into it? So is this Trapper Dan's mayonnaise? Like, what
it is. It's from 1894 or whatever. Gross. No, I think Nancy actually does explain the mayonnaise at some point. It was confirmed that he was doing the potato salad too.
Yeah, I remember him confirming that he did the potato salad. I just never connected the fact that mayonnaise is an ingredient in potato salad.
Oh, of course,
and so that's like doing some mental chess.
You want to just talk about Tino?
Okay, yes, let's talk about Tino. I think the way that they frame him in this game is super interesting because so, like, back in Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, which I think is the last time we spoke to him, I don't think he's ever a phone character.
He's only in these two.
These two, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, no, doesn't he have a phone character in the later one, too?
Not that I remember.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so back in Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, he's, like, this high-profile, really famous detective guy, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, in Last Train, we realize, like, okay, he's actually not that great. But nobody else realizes that, really. And even at the end of it, he kind of gets credit for solving it. But like Nancy's just kind of like, okay, it doesn't matter to her, right? Because she doesn't do it for the applause. But then when we get to this point, he is kind of portrayed as being down on his luck and not really getting cases in the same way, because at some point we can ask Chantal or ask him or whatever how he knew Chantal, where he met Chantal, and he says basically he just like met her randomly at like a party or something and ended up like convincing her to let him consult on this case. But like also when we talk to him, we can ask him like, what else are you working on right now? And he's like, he's not working on anything. He's like basically out of work.
Seems like maybe he was so or his reputation was so damaged from the events of Last Train that he's just kind of
that they weren't. That's the thing is I thought that at the end of that he came off good for having solved the mystery. Maybe I'm misremembering Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, but
No, I think
just
you're
think-
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I just think there's been some kind of shift in Tino's popularity or whatever. And even by the time like we get to the end of this mystery, Chantal's clearly gone off him. Like she thinks he's worthless by the end of it too. So he's like shown his true colors basically to her. But it's interesting to think that he basically had to like grub to get this job. Like, and he's not doing anything else. Like he doesn't have any other work that he's doing.
He seems like the type of guy that would get into that cycle, though. That, you know, like people at the police department started to realize, this guy's all air and talk. And so then he goes and does private clients and gets recommendations that way. But then all of that just kind of flutters out. And so then he goes and he's charming to somebody else. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, I've heard of you. You know, and then it just goes on and on and on like that over and over again.
But how did he ever get famous? I mean, like, how did this guy ever get... Like, do they explain that in Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon? Like, what made him famous?
Because there was like that news coverage of the police chase that he happened to stop because he stopped in the wrong. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he just happened to be in the right place at the right time to quote unquote stop the villain, but he really just happened to be there, and the villain just happened to run into him, and that's what stopped them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What a terrible guy. I hate him.
Yes. It honestly makes me feel a little bit bad for him. Not like to the point where like I, you know, like, oh, but like clearly he doesn't have any skills.
Yeah.
Like clearly doesn't have anything going for him. It's kind of sad.
He is pitiable. Yeah.
It just contributes to the whole kind of like air of this game.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
Like you suck, and you just don't seem to realize how annoying you are. Yeah.
You're just kind of
just all hot air.
Skillless and sad.
Tooting your own horn nonstop, and people don't really love it after a minute.
Everybody realizes it now.
Yep.
Like, ooh.
Maybe that's the catalyst he needs to change his ways, right?
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Let's hope. Oh my God, I would love a Tino redemption arc.
Oh, I don't.
Wouldn't
I hate
you?
that man. No, I don't want to see him ever again. I didn't even want him in this game. I didn't think there was any reason to bring him back.
They could do something really cool where he like comes to Nancy humbly and like apologizes for being such a tool and like
maybe
taking credit, and then becomes like a Nancy like hype boy.
That would be the only thing I could like. That's the only thing I can accept. What's his name in Veronica Mars?
Logan? What?
No,
who?
the private eye who's
Oh God.
That's what he reminds me of.
Yes. No, that's exactly his character. Oh my gosh.
What is his name?
Vinny Van Lowe.
Okay.
Vinny Van Lowe.
Thank you.
I can't believe I didn't remember that.
That's him.
I love him so much.
Maybe Tino was like inspired by Ken Marino and Vinny's character. Probably not.
I think it's a bit of just like a trope. It's like a private detective trope, kind of like greasy guys who like don't really do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
love
Tino.
it. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Let's talk about Chantal.
Yes.
First of all, super sad that she's so like obsessed with making herself seem like a competent person to her dad, who is clearly also a sleazeball. Like if he's like, you know, stealing property from elderly women, that's super sad. But also Chantal seems like a horrible person.
Yeah.
Like
she's definitely the worst boss Nancy ever has.
Yeah, so I mean, for one thing, it's like she doesn't know anything about this property that she owns. Because, like, we'll ask her about, like, the display in the lobby. She's like, oh, there was a bone there? Like, I didn't know that. Or, like, we can talk about, like, you know, some of, like, the furniture or whatever being, like, dinosaur bones. She's like, oh, I never noticed those. Like, she's clearly so, like, not clued in to what's going on here at all. Like, she has no concept of, like, what's even in the property that she owns and manages, right? So, like, super irresponsible.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, like the world's worst boss. There's one point where she, like, we ask her about Ollie not getting a raise or something, and she just says, oh, yeah, like, I just, like, mentioned it to him, like, one time, kind of, like, randomly aside, and now he just, like, keeps bringing it up. And
so
it's so annoying. She calls him a crabby little whiner.
How dare he want to be paid fairly for the job that he performs for me?
it's makes me hate her so much to know that she called one of her employees a crabby little whiner when they were asking for a raise. That she mentioned, that she brought up.
He's doing everything for your business. You're not even
Yes.
here. You don't even know what's in this building. And he's running the place for you, but he's crabby and whiny?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then even with all of that, the reason why we're here is because of all these accidents that are happening at the lodge, which, by the way, we learned that a good amount of them probably are just from her negligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sauna situation,
Yep.
like it's just bad
Mm-hmm.
management.
Right.
She's horrible. She's
the
horrible.
worst.
And this is the person we're supposed to be helping.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand that she's a friend of Ed and Bet Raleigh, who I will not allow slander against. They are perfect and they are the best.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
I'm sure they're just friends because they're just like, they met her at some, like, you know, business function or whatever. They both own, like, you know, hotel kind of situations, whatever. But like, we're here solving this mystery for her. Like, talk about rich people problems.
Right.
Like, we are helping probably one of like the worst business owners. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I hate this. Where is the Nancy that works for the little guy? Bring that Nancy back. Let's have that Nancy in some games. You know what I mean?
And then the ending to be like, happily ever after. Now she's going to get tons of business, and the ski championship is going to put her on the map. And great. Okay, great for Chantal.
I also don't love how, like, this whole game is, like, framed as being, like, this, you know, nature lovers versus, like people who want to kill the wolf versus people who want the wolf to live.
Yes.
Like, I don't love how we frame this as this whole, like, ecological, like, warrior, like, situation, like, eco-terrorism thing. Like, clearly Lupe is framed as being, like, this eco-terrorism when, I mean, yes, she should not have trashed the ice fishing shack, but purportedly that's the only thing that she did.
Right.
And really, she's just there to watch the wolf and make sure the wolf is okay. Like, whereas,
it's interesting.
Yeah, but she's clearly very villainized as being, I will say she's very classist and very uppity, the whole, like, room cleaning thing, and she looks down on everybody else, but it's like, that's a trope of, like, this kind of person, right? Of, like, someone who cares about the environment. Well, there's some rich white woman. I guess Lupe's not white, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah. So, it's just, it's just interesting that we frame this as, and then it's like the down to earth, like salt of the earth people are the ones who want to kill the wolf because they're the ones who, like, have common sense. And you know, I that's very 2008.
It's very interesting and I'm trying to think of other games that do this, but for the game to try to put in this, like, right versus wrong. I feel like Scarlet Hand did this a little bit as well with, like, the provenance and stealing antiquities from other cultures and things like that. Or even, like, Final Scene where they're talking about, like, preserving the history of this old building versus making way for other things, like this kind of right versus wrong. And we don't really land on who's right and who's wrong. And there's good to both sides. But
yeah, it's because I feel like those conversations, like you're talking about in Scarlet Hand and Final Scene, are very nuanced. Like, because I think when you get to it, like, the message of those games is like, yes, the desires are pure and the things that these people want are good and well-intentioned, but it's taken too far. That does not come off this way in this game.
No, this is much later than any time we've tried to do that in the past. So it feels, I don't know, just a little late in the series, and it's done
feels
so
regressive.
differently. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels basic and regressive, and it feels like it's not a good picture. Like, nobody comes off well in this, and it's not, the end message is not like, okay, yes, you know, what they wanted was good, but they went too far, or yes, what they wanted was bad, but they wanted to do it for the right reason. You know what I mean? Like, we don't ever get that messaging.
Yeah. But there's definitely a stance, though, here from Her Interactive, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's a little bit, it's definitely characterizing Lupe, I think, worse than Ollie and Bill. like both Bill and Ollie are framed as being like sensitive and caring, whereas Lupe and Lou even are like money like focused.
And they're violent because they're destroying things and setting off bombs, but Lou's really not setting off bombs, but he's stealing. So there's,
Yeah.
very interesting.
It is very interesting. But also I don't necessarily think that like that was the intended message of the game.
No.
Because at the end of
it shines through though, for sure.
It certainly shines through. And because then at the end of it we get like the resolution of like Isis does end up going to a sanctuary. So what Lupe wanted was the quote unquote correct thing for her, but then we also at the end we leave it on that really sad note.
It's really
Isis
sad that she has to go to the sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's no other alternative for her here.
Truly, like, this is the only way she could have lived, because from a puppy, she would have died on her own.
Right.
Like, she was orphaned. I think they even talk about that in the journal, about how he heard, like, a gunshot go off and assumed that her mom had been killed.
Right.
And so that's why he rescues her. Otherwise, because he waited to see if the mom would show up.
Right.
But she didn't, and so then he freed her.
Yeah.
So, like, that guy did everything right. Like, it was just a sad circumstance. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so, like,
poor Isis.
Yeah.
Makes me so sad for her.
Yeah. But just, really interesting messaging here. Yeah. I feel like when they take this kind of tack with the games where they, do have some kind of, like, moral message, they really need to be much clearer in what they're intending. We needed to have some better narration from Nancy at the end, at least that, to really say what it is that Nancy thinks about this, because the vague stuff is not enough. Right. The vague stuff is murky and it feels a little icky and manipulative when you think about the fact that, like, these games are definitely targeted towards young children. So not young children, but children, so Yep. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else particularly.
Yeah, that's all I've got for this one. Flashlight score?
Oh, I feel like you and I are going to have really different ones here.
Probably.
I think this is a really bad game.
That's fair.
I think this, I enjoy playing it because it's a Nancy Drew game. I think it's probably one of the worst Nancy Drew games. Not the worst, but one of the worst ones.
It's so wild. There's just so much going on. So absurd.
Well, see, I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like there's nothing going on.
Well, just a lot of absurdity going on.
Oh, yes,
just
a lot of absurdity.
You guys are doing what for why? And, like, the wolf is, you think it's supernatural? Okay, there's just a lot
grounded.
in that sense.
Yeah, it's not grounded. It doesn't feel like it makes sense. And the puzzles aren't good. And
there's so few. There's less than 10 in the whole game. And when you do get a puzzle, it's like, it doesn't really...
Easy.
Yeah, it's easy, and it doesn't really contribute that much to the actual story or to the mystery, or you have to play it so many times that it gets old real quick.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I don't even think Fox and Geese is particularly challenging. Like,
it's not. It's just tedious.
And that's the worst kind of puzzle.
Yeah.
And so that's bad. I think the only saving grace that this game has is in its environment and in its ambiance. But, like, that can't be the only thing in your game that's good. So I will give it a 2. A flashlight.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do 3.5.
Okay.
Again, it's one of my favorites. I love the vibes. I love all the chores that you have to do. A lot of the tasks are great. I really enjoy doing, like, the ice pond scraping and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's cute. I mean, it's a Nancy Drew game. I'm going to love it anyway. But I do agree that it's not by any means the strongest in the series. It's not a great story at its core. So it really doesn't deserve any higher than that. But I got to give it some credit just for being fun, just on its own.
Sure.
It's got good vibes. And if you like wintry games, this is definitely one to play, for sure.
True. It's probably like the peak winter game.
Yes,
of all
definitely.
Nancy Drew games.
Definitely. Yeah, sound effects, just like crunching through the snow.
Yeah.
Perfect. Chef's kiss. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, they really know what they're doing there. And I think that, there's some true genius in this game when it comes to that.
Even the soundtrack, you feel cold listening to it. Like you feel like there's icy wind blowing against you just listening to the music. So
yes, very good sound design.
5 stars in that area. But yeah. Well,
oh my goodness.
Next up.
We have one more game on our roster for you guys. We just thought it would be really great since we kind of started this little chunk of episodes here with the latest Nancy Drew game that we go back to the very beginning for you guys. And we are going to be playing the original Secrets Can Kill game. Hopefully, if I can get it to work.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But regardless, we will be talking about it next time. We're very excited for that. And we will see you then, regular Drews.
Yep. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Regular Nancy Drew. Email us at regularnancydrew@gmail.com.
If you like this episode, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Regular Nancy Drew and Twitter at RegularND.
You can also support us on Patreon. Patrons at the $3 level vote on upcoming episode topics and get exclusive access to our Scoop Sesh series.
And all patrons receive early access to each episode as well as weekly bonus content.
And to all you regular Drews out there, thanks for listening.